Hi everyone, Steve Scott here, and I'd like to make this video as briefly as I can, but it is going to be lengthy, so please, I hope you're patient. This is going to be on Reigisaho, the dojo etiquette, the formal, the dojo manners, as it were. And we're going to be exploring the many things that create the dojo atmosphere and the manners and the etiquette we use in our own dojos. And I've done another video on when you're visiting another dojo, the proper etiquette to follow, and people ask me to cut a video like this for your own club, so here we go. Again, these are just based on my own experiences and what I've learned from visiting many other dojos in many other parts of the world, and based on tradition and teaching that I've learned from my senseis and read about. So I've done some research over the years in this, and it's just practice. So I think you can follow all of these. I think you should follow all of these, but there may be some that are not pertinent to you. There may be some other things that I miss here in the video today that actually are pertinent to you. And before I do get started, there's going to be a break in here. We're going to have a little 8 or 9 minute video at some point where the guys in the dojo and I just did a little on-site shoot there, as it were, video shoot, and we're going to show some things about bowing and different parts of the areas wearing the zori, things like that. So we're going to talk about that in that video. But right now, let's get to it. I'm talking too long already. All right. Now what's called the Reigisaho, that's Reigi Saho, and it's the customs, it's dojo etiquette. You know, the customs we use in every dojo is probably the good way to put it. Okay, that's different than the dojo kun, K-U-N, it's kun. And a dojo kun is generally, we don't see it a lot in judo, although we call them dojo rules. That's what it means. Dojo kun means dojo rules. And they're a bit different. You could say it's the same thing, you know, but they are a bit different because the dojo kun are generally the aspirations and the general way the students in the dojo should act everywhere, you know. And of course, this is true. You know, if you want good etiquette in the dojo, you want good etiquette outside of the dojo. But so there's a little bit different there. The dojo rules, the dojo kun, as opposed to the general dojo way of acting or the proper usage or customs. I think Reigisaho is more like a custom than a rule. Okay, but they're good rules also as they are. So it's a little bit of a different there. It could be confusing, but a dojo kun is generally like 5 or 6 basic things that everyone should do all the time. Okay, even in the dojo certainly, but all the time. And the Reigisaho is what goes on, how you act, the customs in the dojo itself. So I hope I haven't muddied that water too much, but I may have, but I hope it cleared out to you. So let's look at some basic rules here, some basic customs of the dojo. I'll try to go over them quickly. I'm not going to elaborate a lot on them, but we'll get through them. Show up on time. If you're a student or an instructor, no matter who you are, show up on time. In fact, I always said, 15 minutes early is too late, but show up on time and don't be late. Okay, don't leave early. Okay, don't unless you have permission from the instructor. If you have to, and it happens to all of us, if you have to leave early for whatever particular good reason, clear it with the instructor at the start of practice or before practice that you're going to have to leave, X minutes early. And get his approval. Just let him know, and often it's always granted because it's just the way it is, and life goes on. But always show up on time. Always leave with the group. Never leave early. All right. And when you are on the mat, do all the drills and activities that the rest of the group does. You're no better than anybody else, unless there's an injury, unless there's something specifically you can't do a particular drill or activity, or you may be injured, you can't really randori that night, but do all the things everybody else does. And by showing up on time, when everybody else shows up, you will be doing all the drills that they do. Okay, so don't show up, a half hour, 45 minutes late, because that's when they start randori. You don't want to do all those silly drills and go through all that. You don't want to wear yourself out because you want to be fresh when you show up for randori and beat everybody up. See, that's the wrong attitude. So show up on time. Do everything with the rest of the group. And that's an important thing. That always stuck in my craw as an instructor, because I've had people through the years come in a half hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour late, just to get there for the last half hour or 45 minutes of randori, and that's all they wanted to do. And we would have a problem. So they would have to come with a regular group and start with us and end with us. So show up on time, do everything with the rest of the group. Don't just pick and choose what you're going to do. That's a very important thing, and it's a great breach of etiquette if you don't do that. And again, when you're leaving, don't leave the mat without the coach's permission. Ask it for whatever reason. You got something happened to your finger. You got to get some tape or whatever. Ask the coach's permission. Okay, and never leave the mat when the instructor, or coach, or sensei is talking or teaching. Okay, so that's not the time to go get a drink of water or decide you have to go call your girlfriend when the coach is teaching a move that you've seen before. You don't need to see that again. No, stay there. That's just improper etiquette if you leave. So when the coach is talking or a senior class person is talking and someone in charge of teaching or something, when they're making a point, listen. Don't leave the mat when the coach is talking or teaching a technique. Very improper to do that. So stay on the mat. Okay. Speaking about talking, don't be loud. Don't be disrespectful. Don't use profanity in the dojo. And again, it's a dojo. It's a gym, but it's a dojo with it's a place with a purpose. Remember, dojo is a place of learning. Is a place to learn the way, the philosophy of what we do. It's not just any old gym. Okay, so treat it with respect. That's why we have etiquette. That's why we have dojo rules and etiquette we follow. So there you go. So. Please don't be loud and don't run across the mat and do silly things. And it's not a place of play. It's a place of study and learning. On the mat, if something should happen that makes you angry, it's not a good idea to show your anger. Okay, suck it up. And if somebody cheap shotted you and if you mention it to them if you feel you need to, and then if that doesn't work, don't get mad. Just get even. Okay. I've seen it. I've done it myself. We all have. We've given somebody a good beating with a smile. So if something angers you, don't blow up. Don't get upset, and just go on with it and deal with it the best you can without losing your temper and making a scene. That's very important. And if you are like an upperclassman, a senpai, and you're doing a drill or something, or you're doing randori and someone throws you, and you feel that embarrasses you, then you need to take a humility pill, because training is training. So don't think that because you're an upperclassman to someone that you're allowed to beat them up. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little more at length later. But anyway, do not show your anger ever. That is improper form, and it's when you do that, you also don't have very good control over yourself. And part of what we do when we come to a dojo to learn is to learn maturity and discipline, and you've got to have that discipline on the mat. So quelling your anger is a good part of that discipline. Talk about what I just said here. Do not be a mat bully. If you are bigger, stronger, or more skilled than someone, don't pick someone based on the fact that you can beat them up. Okay. Don't pick on someone older, or maybe you're a hotshot young competitor, and don't pick on the older 49-year-old insurance salesman because you just want to use him for a throwing dummy. That's improper. Don't do that. Okay. So I think the word bully is overused quite a bit in our culture these days, but here's a case where you don't want to be a mat bully. Okay, I think that's very improper to do. And by the way, all randori should have structure, and that's up to the sensei or coach's job to make sure that structure is adhered to and used during the randori time in any training session. So just remember, randori is not a competition, it's training. There are no winners or losers in randori. So if you do like in my particular case, I was a rather big guy, and I would regularly work with kids in my club, especially when I coached juniors, and I'd randori with them just to give them experience and work with them. It's fun to work with them. But I'd let them throw me. Now I'd throw them, and it's a give and take. But I would let them get their moves in and throw me. I mean, if you are a senior classman or more skilled than someone, when you randori with them, help teach them. That's part of the learning process for you as the upperclassman and for them as the lowerclassman in learning more about judo. So that's just something to remember. As I just mentioned before, randori is not a tournament, it is training. Remember that. It is not proper to beat somebody up on the mat. But don't take a beating from somebody. You know, give and take, do the best you can. Sometimes you have to take a beating. That's the way randori is. Some clubs, you know, are tougher than others, and that's just the nature of life. That being said, let's break here and let's go in. We're just going to show about an 8 or 9 minute video here of when Mike Pennington and Derek Darling and I did a little video here. Mike's behind the camera. He's doing camera work. So it's a little short video on some more dojo rules, just to break up this me talking here on camera all the time. So let's take a look at that right now. Here we go. Let's talk about the bowing procedures. Bowing, standing bowing, like this, Ritsure, is just a nice bow like this, and up, hands on the side, and bowing like this, okay? And Zare, down on your left knee, your right knee, sit. And when you're sitting, you want about a couple of hand lengths between your knees, or, you know, fist lengths. And, you know, that's about how far they should be. Hands here like this. And when you bow, don't go slap the mat. One down, the other, bow, and come right back up. Okay, so that's a seated bow. And a lot of dojos will use that as their beginning and ending, you know, practice. Some don't, some do the standing bow. Okay, so if you're doing the bowing, you either do the standing bow or the kneeling bow. So that's the basics there. I think everybody who is watching this probably knows this, but let's talk about it. So let's talk about bowing on and off the mat. Okay, so now some people say we don't bow to anything. That may be your club, you know, in your club, that's what you do, that's fine. But generally, in our world, in the world of Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, we will bow on and off the mat, generally in a designated place in a dojo. Okay, so over here at Welcome Mat that we have in our training center, often this is the area here that we'll have. Now, if you notice there's a rug here, as I enter the mat, so I step here, as I enter the mat, I step on the mat, and I bow to the mat, okay? And I proceed on. When I'm done, whatever I'm doing, I want to leave the mat, I'll come over here, I'll turn around, bow, and step off the mat. I don't do this. And walk. Always bow to the mat. Say, well, why is that a big deal? It's just courtesy, that's all. It's just courtesy. Okay? So bowing on and off the mat is a pretty important thing. Okay, so when you enter the dojo area, you're coming into the dojo itself. Sometimes it's just sometimes it's just as you come through the door, bow to the dojo area and come on. That's just courtesy. That's just a common thing you see in probably every judo club in the world, that they bow to the dojo area. So, and some might have some kind of a little barrier here, that here's the reception area, you walk through it, and once you walk through it, say this is the reception area out here, and here's maybe a little barrier, then you would bow at this point, if this is the point where you would enter the dojo itself. And then once you do that, come to the edge of the mat, this is a designated place to come on and off the mat. Just take your zori off, stand on the mat, bow, and proceed. That's basic bowing procedure. There's nothing fancy about it. Again, it's just based on good common courtesy, and especially when you're visiting another dojo, bow all the time. Let's look at the bowing procedure when you're wanting to practice with another person in the dojo, okay? First of all, we just want to randori, or we're just going to practice together. Okay, we'll bow to each other, and then we'll proceed. Okay, after we're done, we bow, shake hands, go to the next partner, whatever it may be, whatever it is. So that's the procedure you do. You know, that's just good sportsmanship. We do it all the way. This is not a bow. Nodding the head, or doing this, or fist bumping, and then go at it. That's not. If you want to do that extra, let's start with a bow, and that's all over the world. We do that. So now, if this were my instructor, or a senior person on the mat, and I had a question with him, or I wanted to get some kind of advice or something, as I come up to him, I would bow. He doesn't need to bow back to me. I would bow to him, and I say, Sensei, I have a question, blah, 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 and thank you very much, Sensei, and then go on about your business, okay? So that's just some common courtesy about bowing. And some people are more strict about it than others. That's not the case.
In most places, if you bow and then you do that, that's acceptable. But like Steve said, make sure that you bow first.
Yeah, that's the important thing. There are probably some other things, of course, we really haven't covered, but remember, it's a place of training,
It's not necessarily a place of worship or anything. And some people may be saying, well, it's against my religion or it's against my beliefs to keep bowing. Think of it this way: it's just good etiquette. It's just good etiquette. Okay.
If you shake someone's hand, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's just a different cultural context.
By the way. Also, Mike, come on up here and get up here. You can see a picture of Dr. Kano here. Okay? And everybody can see this. Just about every dojo in the world has a picture of Dr. Kano. Now, we have a particularly big one, and courtesy of Don Hinchcliffe. But it's a great photo. Just about every dojo in the world has a picture of Kano. And I know a lot of times when I was teaching at community centers, because there were multi-purpose buildings that we didn't have the room devoted just for our practice, I couldn't have a picture of Kano or pretty much anything else on the wall that was related to what we were doing. So if that's the case, that's fine. Some dojos will be very formal, and after they bow into each other, then they'll all turn and all bow Professor Kano as well. Whatever the procedure is in that dojo, if you're visiting, follow it. Okay, and this isn't idolatry or idol worship or anything else. We're paying respect to the man who invented a great gift, and that was Judo. So look at it that way. I think you'll have a good way of looking at it. So. Also, another thing, when you're seated in practice, always either sit in Seiza or Anza. So if you're sitting in Seiza, like this, okay, mid-knee position, or Anza with the legs crossed position. Okay, don't lounge on the mat, don't lean on something, never lay down, okay? Never lay on your belly and do this. Actually, these are the two acceptable ways to sit. Now, if you have an injury, and it happens if somebody's got an injury, if they got a bum knee or something and they have to sit out here, that's one thing. But he's probably doing this with a senior person on the mat's approval or the coach's approval. So that's just something to remember when you're talking about dojo etiquette. You may have to sit out like that. I've been in that situation. I had bum knees, so once in a while I'd have to do that. But I always try to bring it back in too, just to be on the safe side. Never lay down on the mat. It's just poor form. So I don't have it here, but always wear footwear off the mat. Sorry, whether it's some type of shoe, but it's generally have your own some type of sandal, a dojo footwear, something like that to keep your feet clean off the tatami. Let's talk about also wearing of the judo gi or the jiu-jitsu gi, whatever you want to call it. Always call it, don't just call it a gi, it's a judo gi or jiu-jitsu gi. Now, often anymore, I think for hygiene, I certainly do it, and with a lot of the guys, a lot of us wear a t-shirt or rash guard under the jacket, okay? And that's perfectly acceptable. Now, we can't do that in competitive situations, obviously. The rules don't permit it. But if you don't want to wear something under your male and you don't want to wear a garment under your judo gi, your jacket, that's totally okay, perfectly okay. But if you do want to absorb sweat, whatever, most people will allow it. Some dojos don't allow that. So just keep that in mind. And always remember, when you're wearing your judo gi, you want it nice and clean, keep it nice and neat. Always the left lapel over the right, that goes for males and females. Tie in a square knot with your belt, your obi, and present yourself like this. You don't want to show up dirty or in disheveled judo gi. That's disrespectful to your sensei, to your training partners, and certainly to what we do on the mat. So be as clean and neat as you possibly can.
So as you saw in that video, there are just some basic things there about what you should be doing in the dojo. I think I covered the seating and the bowing type things and all that. So that being said, we can go on from there. So let's go on. Okay, no smoking in the dojo. This isn't so pertinent anymore because there are a lot of places, indoors where people don't smoke anymore, at least here in the United States. But even I can remember early on in my career when smoking was allowed in, say, the community centers where I worked or places like that. Somebody comes in with a cigarette, we'd always ask them to put it out. We're breathing that dirty air. I don't want to breathe smoke. So that's enough said on that one. No eating on the mat and no chewing gum while you're practicing. One, for safety of the chewing gum. If the gum does get lodged down there, obstructs your airway, you're in trouble. Okay, so no eating or food or chewing gum on the mat. Okay, it's a given. But again, we want to keep the mat clean too. I don't want food crumbs there. Okay, and speaking of the mat, always keep the mat clean. If some rules, some dojos have a rule when everybody comes to the mat, or the first person there runs the mop, or whatever it is, gets it clean. So otherwise it may be a commercial dojo where someone does that, who's paid to do that, or the head, most likely it's the head coach doing it. But nonetheless, if you do need it, clean the mat area, make sure it's clean for you. Water. Don't drink water on the mat or Gatorade. Never drink during a practice. It's just good practice procedure. Never drink carbonated beverages or sweet type beverage, sugar type beverages. That's for a lot of obvious reasons physically. But don't drink water on the mat or Gatorade, because it could spill on the mat. When you take a water break, when the sensei allows you to take your water break during practice, go off the mat. There should be an area designated you can do that. I know a lot of times that I would allow my students to leave their water bottle or their Gatorade bottle or whatever sports drink bottle off the side of the mat, but they'd have to go off the mat to take a drink. They wouldn't stand there on the mat and drink it. So just don't drink anything on the mat. That's just not good, because it could spill on the mat, like I said. All right. Your fingernails and your hair, toenails, make sure the toenails and fingernails are clipped short for obvious safety reasons. And also, if you have long hair, pull it back, tie it back in ponytail, bun, or whatever you want to call it. But make sure it's not long, because we got to grab each other, so make sure the hair is not in the way. And this is specifically for women who have long hair and even men who have long hair. So there you go. Okay, let's talk about some other things that are important. Let's talk about parents in the dojo. We love parents. I had a long time ago, I knew a fellow who said, I don't just recruit students, I recruit parents to my dojo. And that's very true. Parents are an important part of the dojo, because they're the people who supply the kids. And but parents have a place in a dojo. Parents are not the coach or member of coaching. Now some are. Some could be. I can think of a number of people who are judo moms or dads, and certainly they are also black belts, and they coach in the club as well. And a lot of us are in that situation. But generally, a parent who brings their student, have them sit in the lobby, have them sit in another area, a waiting area. They are not to be standing by the mat giving instructions to their children. There is only one coach or a coaching staff on the mat, and that's approved by the head coach, and that's who does the job of coaching. So parents, when you bring your kids to judo practice, you can drop them off, or you can sit in the waiting area and take a book or a Kindle or something to read. Hopefully you're reading my book, The Judo Advantage, and learn more about it. But nonetheless, you're doing your thing, and the instructor's doing his thing and teaching your children good judo. Now, sometimes if a parent has to step in because of a serious incident, maybe the instructor stepped over the boundary lines of decency, or he may use profane language or is abusive to the child, that's when a parent does have to step in. And so there are proper ways to do that. But generally, parents, you have your job, the coach has his or her job, so let's let everybody do their own job and the kids benefit. So just keep that in mind. Parents should not be coaching, and that's not your job. Also, as far as your gym membership, your dojo membership, pay your monthly or weekly, whatever it is, gym dues, your dojo dues. We need this money to keep the place going. Okay, you got to keep paying for the rent. You got to pay the lights, everything else. I'm sure the instructor is the guy who ponied out the money for the mat, everything else in that dojo, and he has to make his expenses every month. So don't be cheap, and pay your dojo fees, and be glad it's there. Okay. Now, if you think they're too high, or you can't afford them, there's some situation going on, it's not possible, talk to the instructor, the owner of the club or the dojo, and maybe you can work something out. But don't be cheap, and don't try to skip out without paying. You're no better than anybody else, and we all have to pay. And when you say somebody, well, you're just doing this to make money, no, we don't get rich or famous teaching judo. That's just the way it is. So please keep that in mind, and it is appreciated when you pay your dojo fees on time. Okay, this is a situation that came up with me for many, many years, and still does for many people. If you are your club is located in a multi-purpose room or a community center or a YMCA, something like that, where it's a public facility, You often have to take the mats out of some type of a storage closet, put them on the floor, clean them, and let everybody practice. And after done, everybody picks up the mats and puts them away in the storage room. That's just common practice in many, many dojos throughout the world. So everybody helps in doing that, okay? Don't expect someone else to do your heavy lifting, literally heavy lifting, okay? Because some of these tatamis can be pretty heavy, and or any type of mat can be pretty heavy. So be part of the team, be part of the group, help take the mats out, put them on the floor. If they need to be cleaned, help clean them, and practice on them. And when you're done, help pick them up. After you bow out, help pick them up and put them back in the storage room. That's just good part of etiquette. That's good part of being a team member, and that's what it's all about. It's helping learn that maturity and discipline we want to, bring along to all of our students, including ourselves. Okay, one last point. Especially if you're visiting another dojo, we've talked about that in a separate. We didn't talk about this, but we talked about if you are the rules of visiting another dojo. But even if you come to a dojo on a regular basis, and you may be practicing at another place that you may like better, don't try to steal people from one dojo to another dojo, or from one program to another program, or from one martial art to another martial art. Okay, when you are at a dojo, you're at that instructor's dojo. It's like being in someone's house. Okay, and when you're in someone's house, you certainly wouldn't want to say behind the instructor's back and to other people in the room, hey, this is a really not very good house, but this house down the street's much better. Go to that one. No, you wouldn't do that. So please be cognizant of this. So when you are in a dojo, don't try to recruit students from that dojo to another dojo. That is very improper form, and it's just a dirty thing to do. So please don't do that. So anyway, these are just some things you can do. The Reigisaho, the culture, the customs, the dojo customs, and that we have in every dojo. I may have missed a few. You may have some pertinent to you specifically, but I tried to give a good overview of what's going on in a dojo, the customs we use, and to maintain a good, proper dojo and a good place of learning. So thanks for watching.